Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Sarvati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, Sati quits her body. Text number 22 onwards. Naitena dehena hare kritagaso dehodbhavenalamalam kujanmana vrida mama bhut kujat prasangat tadjanman dhikyo mahattam vadyakrit. You are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, and unfortunately I have a body produced from yours. I am very much ashamed of our bodily relationship, and I condemn myself because my body is contaminated by relationship with a person who is an offender at the lotus feet of the greatest personality. So Sati is saying this to her father Daksha. I am very much ashamed of our bodily relationship because you have this offensive attitude towards Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest of all devotees of Lord Vishnu. It is stated, Vaishvanam Yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the greatest of all devotees of Lord Vishnu. In the previous verses, Sati has described that Lord Shiva is always in a transcendental position because he is situated in pure Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the state from which Krishna, Vasudeva, is born. So Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. And Sati's behavior is exemplary because no one should tolerate blasphemy against Lord Vishnu or his devotee. Sati is aggrieved not for her personal association with Lord Shiva, but because her body is related with that of Daksha, who is an offender at Lord Shiva's lotus feet. She feels herself to be condemned because of the body given by her father, Daksha. So Sati is thinking even up to this point that because I have this body that was given to me by Daksha, so it's not a body fit to be lived in. Gotram tadiyam bhagwan vrishadvajo dakshayunityaha yata sutamanaha vyapetanarmasmita mahashutadaham vitsvikshya etat kunapam tadrajam. Because of her family relationship, when Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshayini, I at once become morose, and my jolliness and my smile at once disappear. I feel very much sorry that my body, which is just like a bag, has been produced by you. Therefore, I shall give it up. And Lord Shiva sometimes would call him Dakshayini, the daughter of King Daksha. And jokingly, he would say, but that means she has a relationship with Daksha, and she didn't like that. The word Dakshayini means the daughter of King Daksha. Sometimes when there was a relaxed conversation between husband and wife, Lord Shiva used to call Sati the daughter of King Daksha. And because this very word reminded her about her family relationship with King Daksha, she at once became ashamed because Daksha was an incarnation of all offenses. Daksha was the embodiment of envy, for he unnecessarily blasphemed the great personality, Lord Shiva. Simply upon hearing the word Dakshayini, she felt afflicted because of reference to the context, because her body was a symbol of all the offensiveness with which Daksha was endowed. Since her body was constantly a source of unhappiness, she decided to give it up. So very, very strong decision on part of Sati. Text 24. Maitre vacha iti adbhare daksham anudya shatruham Kshitavud ichim nishasad shantava Prishtva jalam pita dukula sambrita Nimilya drigyog patham samavishat. Maitreya the sage told Vidura, "O annihilator of enemies," while speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. It is said that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. Therefore, it appears that Sati changed her dress, indicating that she was going to quit the body given her by Daksha. Daksha was Sati's father, so instead of killing Daksha, she decided that it would be better to destroy the part of his body which was hers. Thus, she decided to give up the body of Daksha by the yogic process. And it's amazing, even Daksha didn't try to stop when she was trying to do this. Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva, who's known as Yogeshwara, the best among all yogis, because he knows all the mystic processes of yoga. So it appeared that Sati also knew them. Either she learned yoga from her husband or she was enlightened because she was the daughter of such a great king as Daksha. The perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's desire. Yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such perfect yogis can leave the body whenever they desire. So yogis who have attained perfection of this yoga process, so they can leave the body whenever they want, just like Bhishmadev. Bhishmadev kept his soul within the body till this Uttarayana happened, and Lord Krishna was there in front of him and looking at Lord Krishna, he left his body. So it is said that devotees, because Bhakti Yoga contains all other yogas, so even devotees, those who are pure devotees, they also have that kind of control on their bodies, on their leaving the body whenever they want to leave. Generally, the yogi first of all becomes mature in controlling the air passing within the body, thus bringing the soul to the top of the brain. Then when the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere he likes. This yoga system recognizes the soul, and thus it is distinct from the so-called yoga process for controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. The real yoga process accepts a transmigration of the soul from one planet to another, or one body to another. And it appears from this incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. So this is how the yogis can act perfect control on their body, on the leaving the body, or on every aspect of the body. They would have perfect control. Prabhupada has mentioned somewhere that there would be yogis, like Ashtasiddhis are there, so yogis would get 8 siddhis. So there would be yogis who could go to even sun planet, walking on the rays of sun, and they could reach sun planet. Because they would go in the subtle body, not the gross body. Gross body they will leave here, and subtle body they would take to the sun planet and then come back. And even in the Kumbh Mela, there are many yogis still today, they say, because they are doing the tapasya in Himalayas, and during Kumbh Mela, they just enter Ganges and they come out through this yogic process. So many wonderful things are possible by yogic process. Coming to the perfection of yoga. But still, the problem is these yogic siddhis, ashtasiddhis, are so magnificent materially that a yogi can get bewildered by having them. People can walk on water. by this yogic process. They can make them lighter than the lightest, smaller than the smallest. They can enter the smallest things, the subtlest things possible. They can enter into that, and they can get, like Prabhupada explained. There were yogis who would sit in maybe Calcutta or wherever, and and they would just desire to have a pomegranate or anar from Kabul, and they just raise their hand and the pomegranate would appear in their hand. And people around them would get, oh, see, look at this Yogi Baba, he's so siddha. What they ask for, okay, give us some material benediction. But actually, that's not the part of yoga. So once, not a yogi, but once a magician was there and he was showing his magic tricks in front of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada and his disciples, they were watching and they were getting some entertainment. And another thing that Prabhupada taught his disciples, when they got entertained by that magic magician, although it has nothing to do with devotional service, but Prabhupada asked his disciples to pay him something because he has entertained you. So otherwise, if you don't pay him, there will be karmic bondage. But regardless, so after this whole magic show was over, so Prabhupada asked him, because the magician was making things appear and disappear by his tricks. So Prabhupada asked him, can you make birth, death, old age and disease disappear? And the magician said, no, Swamiji, obviously I cannot do that. I'm just showing some tricks of the hand, that's all. The Prabhupada said, I can make it disappear. Birth, death, old age and disease. So obviously, Prabhupada has special potency that he can make us devotees, or he can take us on the path where this whole material birth, death, old age, disease can disappear if we follow the path strictly. Kritva samana vinilo jitasana sodana muthapya cha nabhi chakrita shanar hridi sthapya dhyorasya sthitam kanthad bhruvor madhyam anindatanayat. First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the knife here upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised her life air mixed with intelligence to the heart and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, from there to between her eyebrows. The yogic process is to control the air passing within the body in different places called Shat Chakra, the 6 circles of air circulation. The air is raised from the abdomen to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat, from the throat to between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebrum. That is the sum and substance of practicing yoga. Before practicing the real yoga system, one has to practice the sitting postures because this helps in the breathing exercises which controls the airs going upwards and downwards. This is a great technique which one has to practice to attain the highest perfection stage of yoga. But such practice is not meant for this age. No one in this age can attain the perfectional stage of such yoga, but people indulge in practicing sitting postures, which is more or less a gymnastic process. Of course, this Prabhupada called it gymnastic process, but this practice of breathing and sitting, it helps in keeping the body healthy, keeping the body proper. So we can, even it helps in devotional service also, that we can sit down, chant properly and chant and concentrate. By such bodily gymnastics, one may develop good circulation and may therefore keep one's body fit. But if one simply restricts oneself to that gymnastic process, one cannot attain the highest perfectional stage. The yoga process as described in the Kesha Shruti prescribes how one can control his living force according to his desire and transmigrate from one body to another, from one place to another. In other words, yoga practice is not meant to keep the body fit. Any transcendental process of spiritual realization automatically helps one to keep the body fit, for it is the spirit soul that keeps the body always fresh. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the body, the material body immediately begins to decompose. Any spiritual process keeps the body fit without separate endeavor. But if one takes it that the ultimate aim of yoga is to maintain the body, then he is mistaken. But people these days, they're not interested in finding the ultimate goal of yogic process. So they just want to keep the body fit, that's all. And enjoy. The real perfection of yoga is elevation of the soul to a higher position, or the liberation of the soul from material entanglement. Some yogis try to elevate the soul to higher planetary systems, where the standard of life is different from that of this planet, and where the material comforts, lifespan, and other facilities for self-realization are greater. And some yogis endeavor to elevate the soul to the spiritual world, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. The Bhakti Yoga process directly elevates the soul to the spiritual planets, where life is eternally blissful and full of knowledge. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is considered to be the greatest of all yoga systems. So, looks like Sati was expert in this yogic process, and she sat down and took her life air all the way to the abdomen, all the way to the eyebrows, to between the eyebrows, the Ajna Chakra. Evam sodeham mahatam mahiyasa moho samaropitam ankamadara jihasati daksharusha manaswini dadhar gatreshva anilagni dharana. Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, who was worshipped by great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Lord Shiva is described herein as the best of all great souls. Although Sati's body was born of Daksha, Lord Shiva used to adore her by sitting her on his lap. This is considered a great token of respect. So this act of Lord Shiva asking Sati to sit on his lap, of course they both husband and wife, but at the same time it was not about sexual intimacy. So, Lord Shiva is a Yogeshwara here, complete control on all his thoughts and body and everything. And Sati also, Sati is daughter of Daksha, great personality. And Sati herself is a self-realized soul. So this was just out of token of respect and love for his wife. And he would do that. But not in today's day and age. If we see husband and wife sitting like that, it's not the same as the Sati and Shiva. Thus, Sati's body was not ordinary, but she decided to give it up because it was a source of unhappiness because of its connection with Daksha. This severe example set by Sati is to be followed. One should be extremely careful about associating with persons who are not respectful to the higher authorities. It is instructed, therefore, in the Vedic literature that one should always be free from the association of atheists and non-devotees and should try to associate with devotees. For by the association of a devotee, one can be elevated to the platform of self-realization. This injunction is stressed in so many places in Srimad Bhagavatam. If one wants to be liberated from the clutches of material existence, then one has to associate with great souls. And if one wants to continue one's material existential life, then one may associate with persons who are materialistic. So this association is very, very important. Who do we associate with and how do we associate with him? And Sati, although she was wife, but because of her that little association with Daksha, she decided to give up this body. She could have gone back to Lord Shiva's place and never come back to see Daksha, but she was so morose that she has this bodily relationship with Daksha. She wanted to give up this body completely. The materialistic way of life is based on sex life, thus both becoming addicted to sex life and associating with persons who are addicted to sex life are condemned in Vedic literature, because such association will simply interfere with one's spiritual progress. However, association with great personalities, devotees who are great souls, will elevate one to the spiritual platform. Sati Devi decided to quit the body she had obtained from Daksha's body, and she wanted to transfer herself to so that she might have completely uncontaminated association with Lord Shiva. Of course, it is understood that in her next life she would take birth as a daughter of the Himalayas, Parvati, and then she would again accept Lord Shiva as her husband. Sati and Lord Shiva are eternally related. Even after she changes her body, the relationship is never broken. And Sati and Shiva, or Shiva and Parvati, they're considered the best couple actually. And their relationship is eternal. Tata svabhartushcharanambujasavam jagadgurush chintyati na chaparam dadarsha deho hatkalmashah sati sadhya prajajval samadhi jatnina. Sati concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is the supreme spiritual master of all the world. Thus she became completely cleansed of all taints of sin and quit her body in a blazing fire by meditation on the fiery elements. Sati at once thought of the lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is one of the three great personalities of Godhead, in charge of the management of the material world. And simply by meditating on his lotus feet, she derived such great pleasure that she forgot everything in relationship with her body. This pleasure was certainly material because she gave up her body for another body which was also material. But by this example, we can appreciate the devotee's pleasure in concentrating his mind and attention on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So she just meditated on the lotus feet of Lord Shiva and gave up that body. And Prabhupada says, so we can appreciate the devotee's pleasure in concentrating one's mind and attention on the lotus feet of Krishna. So how much pleasure the devotees must be getting. There is such transcendental bliss in simply meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord that one can forget everything but the Lord's transcendental form. This is the perfection of yogic samadhi or ecstasy. In this verse, it is stated that by such meditation, she became free from all contamination. What was that contamination? The contamination was that her concept of the body derived from Daksha. But she forgot that body relationship in trance. Purport is that when one becomes free from all bodily relationships within this material world and simply places himself in the position of an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that all the contamination of his material attachments has been burned by the blazing fires of transcendental ecstasy. It is not necessary for one to manifest a blazing fire externally, for if one forgets all his bodily relationships within this material world and becomes situated in his spiritual identity, it is said that one has been freed from all material contamination by the blazing fire of yogic samadhi or ecstasy. That is the topmost perfection of yoga. So Prabhupada, back and forth. Okay, Sati was meditating on the lotus feet of Shiva, and she left her body and then she got into the body. That was her aim. But a devotee at the same time, if he can, throughout the day during devotion service, he can remember the lotus feet of Krishna, concentrate on the lotus feet of Krishna, then he can forget all the material world and the attachments of the material world, body relationships within the material world. Then he is completely spiritual, at the spiritual platform. Actually, we did experience this on Nirsala Ekadashi when we were chanting so many rounds. At one point, everything else was completely gone. It was just the holy name, and that was it. Nothing else was there in the mind. Just imagine if that status can be achieved always. How great would that be? So just not just the chanting of the holy name, in devotional service, anything we are doing, we get absorbed so much in that devotional service. We forget everything, like dressing the deity, cooking for the deities, cleaning the temple, attending festivals. Like when we go to Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra, in the middle of Rath Yatra, all we can remember is looking at the face of Lord Jagannath or trying to pull his chariot. We would forget everything what is happening in Delhi or anywhere in the material relationships. So that thought process is required permanently. So slowly, when we work on this, it will happen. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Yata Kirtanam, Yata Smaranam. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simply by remembering the lotus feet of Krishna, simply by offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is immediately freed from material contamination, material bodily concept by the blazing fire of ecstasy. This effect takes place immediately without a second's delay. So this is how fast Bhakti Yoga gives results. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that Sati quit her body means that she gave up within her heart her relationship with Daksha. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also comments that since Sati is the superintendent deity of the external potency, when she quit her body, she did not get a spiritual body, but simply transferred from the body she had received from Daksha. Other commentators also say that she immediately transferred herself into the womb of Menka, her future mother. She gave up the body she had received from Daksha and immediately transferred herself to another better body. But this does not mean that she got a spiritual body, because her goal was not a spiritual body. Her goal was to again marry Lord Shiva and serve Lord Shiva. Tatta Pashyatam Khe Bhuvi Chad Bhutam Mahat Aheti Vada Sumahan Jayat Hanta Priya Devatamasya Devi Jaha Vasun Kem Sati Prakokita. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? There was a tumultuous roaring all over the universe in the societies of the demigods of different planets because Sati was the daughter of Daksha, the greatest of all kings, and the wife of Lord Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. Why did she become so angry that she gave up her body? Since she was the daughter of a great personality and wife of a great personality, she had nothing to desire. But still, she gave up her body in dissatisfaction. So there was tumultuous roaring and maybe some gossiping also going on all over the universe. Why did she leave her body like this? Certainly, this was astonishing. One cannot attain complete satisfaction, even if one is situated in the greatest material opulence. There was nothing Sati could not achieve either from her relationship with her father or from her relationship with the greatest of the demigods. But still, for some reason, she was dissatisfied. Hmm. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. In this material world, nobody can remain satisfied. Nobody can be happy. Sati was in the best of the positions, but still she was so dissatisfied, so morose, so frustrated. She decided to just give up her body. And Prabhupada said, although there was no material opulence that she could not get. So if we think by getting material opulences, we'll get satisfaction or we'll get happiness, that's just Maya actually. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that one has to achieve real satisfaction. Yayatma suprasidati. But Atma, the body, mind, and soul all become completely satisfied only if one develops devotional service to the absolute truth. Savai punsam varod. If one can develop his unflinching love for the transcendental supreme personality of Godhead, that can give complete satisfaction. Otherwise, there is no possibility of satisfaction in the material world or anywhere else. So, yayatma suprasidati. What? That bhakti towards adhokshaya. Only that can please the soul to the best possible way. Aho anatmyam mahadasya pashyat prajapatiriyasya characharam praja jahavasum yadvimtatmaja sati manasvini manam abhikshanam arhati. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, who was not only chaste but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. The word anatmaya is significant. Atmaya means the life of the soul. So this word indicates that although Daksha appeared to be living, actually he was a dead body. Otherwise, how could he neglect Sati, who was his own daughter? It was the duty of Daksha to look after the maintenance and comforts of all living entities, because he was situated as Prajapati, the governor of all living entities. Therefore, how is it that he neglected his own daughter, who was the most exalted and chaste woman, a great soul, and who therefore deserved the most respectful treatment from her father? The death of Sati, because of her being neglected by Daksha, her father, was most astonishing to all the great demigods of the universe. So Daksha is a Prajapati, is a maintainer of all living entities. And he just didn't maintain this respectful to his own daughter. That was amazing. It was astonishing. And that's what Prabhupada says. So Daksha appeared to be living, although he was a dead body, because he didn't have this heart full of compassion towards his own daughter. Soyam durmarsha hrityo brahmadukcha loke apakirtim mahatim abhapsyati yadan virjam swam purushad vidutyatam na pratyashe dhan vitya aparadha. Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahman, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Daksha is described here as the most hard-hearted and therefore unqualified to be Brahman. Brahmadruk is described by some commentators to mean Brahma Bandhu, or friend of the Brahmans. A person who is born in a Brahman family but has no Brahminical qualifications is called a Brahma Bandhu. Brahmins are generally very soft-hearted and forbearing because they have the power to control the senses and the mind. Daksha, however, was not forbearing for the simple reason that his son-in-law, Lord Shiva, did not stand up to show him the formality of respect. He became so angry and hard-hearted that he tolerated even the death of his dearest daughter. Sati tried her best to mitigate the misunderstanding between the son-in-law and the father-in-law by coming to her father's house, even without an invitation. And at that time, Daksha should have received her, forgetting all past misunderstandings. But he was so hard-hearted that he was unworthy to be called an Aryan or a Brahmin. Thus his ill fame still continues. Daksha means expert, and he was given this name because of his ability to beget many hundreds and thousands of children. Persons who are too sexually inclined and materialistic become so hard-hearted because of the slight loss of prestige that they can tolerate even the death of their children. So Daksha, although he was expert in producing children, he was a Prajapati, but he could not give up that enviousness towards Lord Shiva, and he became hard-hearted towards his own daughter. It's astonishing that in material world, this is all possible in the material world. One of the greatest personalities, Daksha, he became so hard-hearted, he didn't even try to prevent the death of his own daughter. Vadati evam jane satya drishta satyagam adbhutam daksham tat pashada ahantam udatishtam udayudaha. While people were talking about among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. Now it was time for the army of Lord Shiva to avenge the death of Sati. The attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamity, but since they were unable to protect the master's wife, they decided to die for her. And before dying, they wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty of attendants to give protection to the master, and in case of failure, it is their duty to die. Tesham apatakam veham nishamya bhagwan yajyakha dakshinagno yukavata. They came forward forcibly, but Bhrigu Muni saw the danger and offering oblations into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda, by which the destroyers of Yajna performances could be killed immediately. So now Sati has left the body. That's a big problem. Big tumultuous uproar is happening all over the universe. And now the ghosts and all the associates of Shiva attack the Yajna, and Bhrigu Muni is putting the oblations into the sacrificial fire. Here is one example of powerful hymns in the Vedas which, when chanted, could perform wonderful acts. In the present age of Kali, it's not possible to find expert mantra chanters. Therefore, all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are forbidden in this age. The only sacrifice recommended in this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Because in this age, it is not possible to accumulate the needed funds for performing sacrifices, not to speak of finding expert Brahmins who can chant the mantras perfectly. So there was so much of power in the mantra. The Brahmins could chant, and they could, like the shloka said, they could destroy they could kill the destroyers of the yogic performance. Advaryuna duyamani deva utketu rodasa devago nam tapsa somam prapta sahasrisha. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods, named Ribhus, became manifested. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength from Soma, the moon. It is stated here that thousands of demigods and Ribhus became manifested because of the oblations offered in the fire and the chanting of the hymns from the Yajurveda. Brahmins like Bhrigu Muni were so powerful that they could create such powerful demigods. simply by chanting the Vedic mantra. Vedic mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. By chanting Vedic mantras or chanting the Gayatri or Vedic mantra, one can attain the results one desires. In the present age of Kali, it is recommended by Lord Chaitanya that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one can attain all perfection. This was the summary or the essence of all the Vedic literature, all the Vedic mantras is in Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But to understand the potency of this mantras in the Vedas, yet with Veda, it's amazing what kind of potency they have. And Prabhupada says the mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. We have to chant. In these mantras, we'll read another story later on about Chitraketu and Vitrasura.
One syllable of one mantra, there would be so many mantras to be chanted. If one syllable only of one mantra is wrongly chanted, that could create, not just destroy the whole yagya, but it could give a opposite reaction, completely opposite reaction. So that's why this pure Brahmins who would chant properly was so much required. And they would practice it, practice every day in their ashram, how to chant the mantras properly and how to do different mudras from the hands properly. Everything has to be perfectly proper for them to give this desired results. But Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and this is so much of mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes we chant slowly, sometimes we chant fast, sometimes we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, and sometimes Hare Krishna and Hare Rama. Still, everything is okay. That's how merciful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. That's why Rupa Goswami called him Namo Mahavatanyaya Avatar. Mahavatar, most magnificent avatar. Because he doesn't look at the qualification or disqualification of the followers. Just chant it, that's it. Tair lata yudha sarve brahmatha saha guhyakaha hanyamana disho bhejur ushad bhir brahmatejasa. When the river demigods attacked the ghosts and guhyakas with half-burnt fuel from the yajna fire, all these attendants of Sati fled in different directions and disappeared. This was possible simply because of Brahma Tejas, Brahminical power. The word Brahma Tejas used in this verse is significant. In those days, Brahmins were so powerful that simply by desiring and by chanting a Vedic mantra, they could accomplish very wonderful effects. But in the present age of degradation, there are no such Brahmins. According to Pancharatrika system, in this age, the entire population is supposed to consist of Shudras. Kalo Shudra Sannava. Everybody is a Shudra or lower. Because the Brahminical culture has been lost. But if anyone displays the signs of understanding Krishna consciousness, he should be accepted according to Vaishnava regulations as a prospective Brahman and should be given all facilities to achieve the highest perfection. The most magnanimous gift of Lord Chaitanya is that the highest perfection of his life is available in this fallen age if one simply adopts the process of chanting Hare Krishna, which is able to bring about the fulfillment of all activities and self-realization. So Hare Krishna Mahamantra has everything that are in the Vedas, and Hare Krishna Mahamantra takes us to the level of getting prema of Krishna. This is so powerful. Just we have to chant it properly. So there ends the 4th chapter of 4th canto. So tomorrow we'll start the 5th chapter. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, some tweaks in the story where like after Sati leaves her body,
I
can
can
you hear me?
barely hear you. So let me
Is it
see
better?
my settings. Settings are okay.
Hello? Now, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Somehow I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No. I'm in very feeble voice. I'm trying to see. I should be on the speaker. Why I'm not on? Okay.
Is it
Can you
better?
hear me? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, as Prabhuji, I think there is some tweak in the story at certain places. I would say when Sati leaves the body, it in some places, in some books, that she jumped on that yajna which that was trying to perform. That yajna ahuti, the fire was burning, and she jumped on that. And there is a story that I think Lord Shiva was very angry by knowing that Sati has left her body and to kill Daksha. That Shiva comes visit to that place and takes the body of Mata Sati and travels all over the world. And the body's part, fell. Fallen there. There is a
Uh, that part will come later because Lord Shiva hasn't come to the sacrifice yet. But how she leaves her body could be different kalpas, could be differently. Because this is just one kalpa we are talking, one day of Brahma. Other days of Brahma, it could happen differently, maybe.
And
what you're trying to say,
another
her parts of her body fell down, those are the Siddh Peeths, right?
actually, Lord Shiva is so angry in this whole incident. He has no control on his body. He was just I think on his hand he has just he was feeling he was in so many an anger that he was traveling all over the world, and and that like the moment the days will pass on, the body was rotten. I mean, it was the burnt body, and it just hands and legs and all part of the bodies fell in different places all over India, and wherever it was felt, I mean, all the body was fallen. The body parts, there was a Shakti Peeth established, such as
Yeah,
Kali Ghat in Kolkata. One of them. One of
yeah, that also I have heard. Like Vaishno Devi also is one of the Shakti Peeths.
And प्रभु जी उनके जो आंसू थे वो रुद्र बने रुद्रा जो क्या
Yes, exactly, ma'am.
है ना शिव जी के जो आंसू थे that becomes अब आज की डेट में उनको क्या बोलते हैं उनको मैं भूल गई उनका नाम क्या
रुद्राक्ष जो बना है, द रुद्राक्ष माला which
माला जो
तो
बनती
वो
है
भी
वो शिव जी
उसी
के
का
आंसू
बना है.
हैं.
Oh, I didn't know that. Great.
Actually, there are in different books it's mentioned differently.
Could be. Bhagavatam,
This
it
which
has
I've
to go
heard.
to different places. Different things are mentioned in Bhagavatam. And now people make
But this is
Rudraksh out
nice
of
to know.
plastic also.
Exactly, probably. I mean, so many duplicates available in the market.
What to do?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, if you have 5 minutes and in case you are not tired, जरा सा प्रभु जी सूतक के बारे समझा दीजिए ना प्लीज इन केस
ये बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है.
हाँ, in fact,
Important है.
Network problem करता है.
WhatsApp is flooded with sutak and time and all.
See, I mean, basic thing we have to understand. So this all happened at the churning of the ocean when the nectar was produced. So this whole story will come later on in Bhagavatam. So Rahu and Ketu, they saw Madan Mohini was distributing nectar to the demigods first. So they sat in the line of demigods. But Surya and Chandra, they saw Rahu and Ketu sitting there, and they were not demigods. So they raised the alarm that, oh, these are demons who sat in the line. So Mohini Murti just took out his Sudarshan Chakra and cut off their throats. But what had happened, she had already served them nectar. So they had drank the nectar, but nectar was in the throat. It hasn't gone down. So she cut the throat with the Sudarshan Chakra. So their heads became immortal because they had drank the nectar. So now they went to Brahmaji. Now Brahmaji, do something, because now what to do? So Brahmaji said, okay, now you will become planets. And they were angry at Surya and Chandra for being the tattletale. So they said we should get a chance to eat them. So what happens now in solar eclipse? So Rahu comes and he eats Surya. Okay, so because of Brahmaji's benediction, he can eat. But the Surya goes inside his head and then comes out of the throat because there is no body. So it happens only for one muhurat, this whole eating. So 48 minutes. So any eclipse does not last more than 48 minutes, only one muhurat. But before that and afterwards, because Rahu is trying to attack Surya, trying to cover him up, so that is the Sutak period. Before and after solar eclipse or lunar eclipse. So Sutak period, whatever the chart says, how long it is and when it starts, when it ends. So it is said that time it gives out so many harmful rays because sun is kind of covered by Rahu, and Rahu is a maleficent bad planet. It's not a good planet. So it affects the cooked items, and that's why earlier days, people would go to the rivers and stand in the rivers so that when this eclipse happens, it doesn't affect them, affect their bodies. So nowadays, we should stay indoors only. There's no point in going outside. And one should cover his body also if he has to go out at that time. And again, the food that is cooked gets contaminated. So that is why it is said one should not cook any food at that time. Before, from the Sutak to the end of Sutak, beginning of Sutak to end of Sutak, because the harmful rays are there. But then to counteract it, tulsi leaves are there. So if you have cooked food, now if we have cooked bhoga for the deities and we are offered to the deities, now that bhoga, prasad, is not different from Krishna. So what can Rahu do to Krishna? Nothing. And especially when we have put tulsi leaf on it. So yes, in the temples, in the traditional temple, they stop the darshan, they close the darshan, that nobody should come. Idea is not that the deities will get affected. There's no way deities can get affected. But idea is people should remain at home, not come out at that time. So that is why there was a discussion on one of the forums, because Prabhupada, when he started ISKCON, and it went on for 12 years when he was on the planet, I'm sure many times the solar and lunar eclipse happened, Prabhupada never told his disciples to shut down the temples and close the curtains or this or that. But in India, outside India, it is still not followed. In India, we follow because we have to keep up with the social tradition. But behind the curtains, all the offerings and all the services go on. Ultimately, what can Sutak do to Krishna? Nothing. So for us, best is at home, when we are at home, we serve our deities, cook for them. I mean, if we have reservations about cooking, so at least offer him fruits or water, uncooked items, or put tulsi on it. And then you can consume that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Chant more. Chanting is always there. And moreover, well, here tomorrow is Gundicha Marjan Day. So, as I said, we should be cleaning our temple. So you can do it on Monday, Gundicha Marjan. But just take care of the deities nicely. That's all.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for letting us know about Sutak, and thank you, Pramod Prabhu, for asking this question.
I know, so many messages are going around, but how do you take care of the children in Sutak? We can fast, but children cannot fast. So it's okay. Don't worry about Sutak. Just chant more. That's all.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you all very much. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.